In this lesson, we're going to talk about plant tissues. Now remember, we have cells, tissues, organs, and systems. And a tissue is a group of similar cells that work together to perform a particular function. And a lot of times we don't think of plants as having tissues because we think of our tissues, which are connective, nerve, let's see, what's some other, epithelial tissue and muscular tissue. So we have those kinds of tissue. And the tissue in a plant obviously is different than the type that we have. They have three primary kinds of tissues, and you need to know this as a listing question: dermal tissue, ground tissue, and vascular tissue. And you need to know what each does and some examples of the tissues that are found in these categories. So let's look at dermal first. When you think of dermal, you should think of like our epidermis and our dermis, which is the covering. And so it's the covering on plants, and it's for protection, keeping things out that should not come in. And it's also, remember, to prevent the water loss. And if it has a cuticle, that's an extra protection that's on outside of the epidermis. So the examples down there are epidermis and the periderm. The periderm is when a stem starts changing into wood. And the very outer, just under it would actually be the area becoming the bark. So that's the periderm. Ground tissue is most of probably what a plant part is made up of. And it has different functions. One function is metabolism, another function is storage, and another function is support. And these are all the inchimas. So think of the inchimas as being the ground tissue. There's parenchyma, collenchyma, and sclerenchyma. And they are in the metabolism area, storage, and support. The vascular tissue is the one that we're going to primarily concentrate on, because remember, the category of plants that we're looking at are vascular plants that produce seeds. And so vascular tissue is what transports the water and the sugar in the plant. It's their circulatory system. And the two primary kinds of cells found in the vascular tissue, because remember, tissues are made up of a collection of cells that are working together for a common function. And it's called xylem and phloem. And here you get a good picture of xylem cells and phloem cells. The vascular tissue, as I said, in a plant is their conductive or their water conducting system. And remember, the water in a plant is mixed with something, because that's what the water is doing. It is like our blood. It's like the fluid portion of our blood, the plasma, that is transporting stuff from one part of our body to another. Well, what's dissolved in there depends upon where the water is and where it's going. The xylem, again, is all throughout the plant, and phloem is all throughout the plant. So from the roots all the way up to the leaves. But the xylem is what is carrying the water with dissolved minerals, because that's what the roots are doing. They're absorbing water with the minerals that are in it. And the job of the xylem then is to carry that water with dissolved minerals up the plant, which it has the harder of the two jobs because it's going against the gravity, but it gets it accomplished. And that's one kind of sap. A lot of people don't realize there are really two kinds of sap that transfer in a plant. And it's not just in a tree, it's in other plants as well. And one kind of sap is that water with dissolved minerals, and it's going up, and xylem's what carries that sap up. The other kind starts in the leaves. The leaves' primary function is to make the sugar. So that sugar is dissolved in water, that glucose. And so that sap has to get down to the roots. So it travels down the plant by way of the phloem. So xylem's carrying the sap up, phloem's carrying the sap down. In the leaves and in the non-woody parts of plants, the xylem and the phloem are usually bound up together in a structure that we call a vascular bundle. Makes sense. It's a lot of xylem and phloem bound together. Vascular and a bundle. In a leaf, we commonly refer to a vascular bundle, or more technically, fibrovascular bundle. We can call them veins. So when you look in a leaf and you see the vein, you are really looking at the vascular bundle, the fibrovascular bundle. And the reason they call it fibrovascular bundle is because it has the xylem and the phloem, which is the vascular tissue, but then it has fibrous tissue that supports it and holds it together. Now in a xylem cell, there are two different kinds, and you can see them pictured over on the right, the tracheids and the vessel elements. And you need to know the difference between them. You need to know that all vascular plants have xylem that is composed of the tracheids, all of them. The tracheid cells, actually when they mature, they die. And so when they die, they're not going to have all that cytoplasm and other stuff inside of them. It's actually going to leave a hollow tube that water can easily flow through. In a flowering plant, not only do they have the tracheid, but they also have vessel elements. And the end of the vessel element, they have larger openings than those in the tracheid cells, and water can pass through more easily. So the vessel elements are only found in flowering plants. And here's some good pictures I'm going to show you of the xylem with their tracheids. Now, phloem is another kind of vascular tissue. Remember, it's carrying the water with the dissolved sugars down, and it's composed of two types of cells as well: sieve tube elements and companion cells. If you look at the sieve tube, remember a sieve tube element. A sieve is like a colander. It's going to have holes in it, and it's what will allow certain things through as long as they can fit through those holes. And if you look at that cell, it has no nucleus whatsoever. But the companion cell that is next to it has the nucleus, and it's what does the controlling and has the DNA. The sieve tube cells, the sieve tube elements, they're long, they're thin, they're stacked end to end to form like a long tube, like a straw. The companion cell are what controls the function of them because they have the nucleus. And here's your picture showing you the phloem structure. Here's side by side showing the xylem and the phloem with their two different kinds of cells and two different kinds of cells in each one. And here's some pictures under microscopes with different stains, and we'll be going over these, and you'll be seeing some of these in the slides that we have. So look at the xylem and the phloem where it's located, and this is a fibrovascular bundle. You got about 4 of them showing there, 4 fibrovascular bundles. Here you have 1 fibrovascular bundle. You can see the fibers up at the top, then the phloem in between, and then the xylem towards the bottom. And that's just 1 fibrovascular bundle. Here's one example of a fibrovascular bundle, and you can see where the xylem is and where the phloem. This is in the sunflower stem, and the fibrovascular bundles are up at the top, and they go around, kind of look like acorns, or in other structures I call them Santa Clauses. And then in the middle you have a bunch of pith. Here's one up close.